Well, it sounds good, 100 days, doesn't it?
It's a nice round number.
But I actually think the question is a very important one because you can't live in Auckland and not recognise that transport is a fundamental and critical issue for the region. But the question also begs another, and that is, and as national politicians have told us, that's a humongous multi-billion-dollar matter. But what about the rest? And where does it sit in the priority and scheme of things?
Where do you think it should sit?
Well, this is where this government, and Rodney Hyde as the minister in particular, may not be allowed to get off the hook. So this new council is not allowed to say, look, we're putting all our focus on transport. They must not be, and the questioner is right. They must put all their focus on transport, water quality, local governance, encouragement of community values, ethics and leadership, treaty settlements, and everything else environmentally, economically, that is enshrined in the new Act. So it won't be good enough for them to act, the new council, as a quasi-government where they say these will be our policies for the next 3 years. They have to do all of the above. And that is the nature of local government as opposed to central government, who can have the luxury of saying before an election, we're going to put all of our money in the education bag, or all of our money in the health bag, or we're going to sell all of the assets. Not that they ever told us that one, but if you understand what I mean, they are bound at the local government level with a whole different constitutional construct. And that constitutional construct obliges them in the day-to-day community level of life to ensure not just one of the above, as if they were a government, but all of the above, and therein lies the difference. So the checks and balances will be, yes, what about the $1 billion transport plan, and hallelujah to that, but all the rest of the capacity that's got to go behind everything else as well, including the aspirations of Maori in this country and this region as tangata whenua.
I want to sink our teeth into this new Maori board. And John, can you explain to us what the structure will look like and who will be appointing the members, how many members there will be? Give us a brief overview, please.
Yep. Within the Auckland Council legislation, there's provisions for the creation of a Maori statutory board. The Minister of Maori Affairs convened a meeting in late August, and with 19 iwi representatives that were mandated through their various iwi, and they then formed a iwi selection body. So
iwi just Auckland based?
Yep, so nā mana whenua Tamaki Makaurau.
So we're just talking about mana whenua?
Yep.
Okay. So,
and their role is effectively to appoint the representatives to the Māori Statutory Board, and they've got till 1 November to do that.
How many members on the board?
19. And they've been resourced and supported through the Auckland Transition Agency to provide whatever they require in order for them to execute their role. They're pretty much halfway through that process. And the Māori Statutory Board will have a total of 9 members, 7 mana whenua and 2 mātāwaka. And as of last week, the iwi selection body advertised for nominations of mātāwaka representatives, and they'll be meeting on the 18th of October to appoint the 2 mātāwaka representatives. And then the Māori Statutory Board will come together, and they have to have their first meeting before the 15th of November. And they have quite two key roles within their purpose, and the first one is to identify matters of significance to Māori across the region and to be able to advocate those to the new council. And the second element is they actually have a monitoring role in terms of the council's performance in relation to its treaty-based responsibilities and statutes. So that's quite a meaty role in terms of monitoring the council's performance. The board is independent of the council. It'll have its own staff, and while the council would be responsible for employing them, they're actually accountable and operate under the direction of the Māori Statutory Board. And one of the key things it'll have to do through its establishment is to develop its own work program and then agree to a funding arrangement with the council. And it also has the powers to appoint Maori to committees of council, especially where they're committees that look after any sort of natural or physical resources of the region. And certainly converse to that, the council can also delegate authority, other powers to the board and also invite them to appoint Māori to other committees of council.
Okay, so we've got an iwi selection group made up of mana whenua that were collected or called together by the Minister of Māori Affairs. And there's 19 of them. And they will appoint, just to recap, they will appoint 7 mana whenua representatives and 2 mātāwaka members.
Yep.
Heta, what do you think about that? As a local, I'm not sure if you are mana whenua or
no,
Tauta Here. What do you think about that? You've already described the importance that this group is going to have for Māori living in Auckland, and that's the makeup of it. That's how it's going to be formed.
Yes.
That's how they're going to be appointed.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
Well, I guess it's exactly how I'd expect it to be formed, and I was sort of listening to sort of understand the powers that they would have, which would be more around sort of consulting on issues relating to Māori, but also a monitoring role. I guess I was sitting here thinking to myself, in terms of that monitoring role, it might be a question for you, to what extent, if they find the council wanting in terms of their obligations, can they actually do anything about it? So if they're monitoring their performance and they say, hey, your performance is a C-, we want to see it up to a B+, what happens then? So that's, I mean, if they do actually have the power to effect some change in that way, that would be quite interesting to see how they do it.
Briefly, John, can you answer that? Do they have that power, or what powers do they have available to them?
I guess the key aspect is that the council has to take into account anything that the board recommends, and certainly...
is that the key word though, recommends?
I guess it's really, and that's something that the council and the Māori Statutory Board have to work through in terms of its relationship.
What does the Act say though? Sorry, I don't know myself.
It's basically, the Act is, I guess...
I suppose what I'm trying to drive to, are they an advisory board? Do they just advise? Do they have any binding powers?
They don't have binding powers, but I certainly think that it's not just solely an advisory board. Certainly in terms of its ability to drive its own kaupapa, have its own staff, and to how it certainly works with Māori at a local level. So it's an important development, and certainly for iwi it falls short of direct representation on the council, but they've certainly have gotten behind the process as it is, with the view of using it as a platform to effect further change.